what your choices have been, and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed. The light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hi, and welcome everyone to Whole Soul Mastery's Live Well, Live Whole podcast series. I'm here today with Ameera Atlantis, who is going to be sharing I feel like there's just these sparkles in the energies of our connections. I think it's the Andaras talking. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. But that is how I found you, is through this awakening. I had an Andara awakening. The Andaras have awakened me in a much bigger way than ever before. So I'm so excited to be talking with you. I'm Marie Mohler. I'm an author, an intuitive, and a Lemurian, and I connect with the Arcturians. It's so interesting when we have these pieces of our soul history that combine to form who we are. And for the longest time, I was so all about Lemuria. And then these messages of Arcturus were coming in. They came and found me. I wasn't looking for that. And then I've been channeling these messages from the Arcturians, but there's a lot of Lemurian frequencies sprinkled into every single message that I share. And you carry those Lemuria codes and the Atlantean codes. And so I thought, first of all, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being here. I know our audience is going to be excited to hear what we're talking about today. And I wanted to just start off by, can you tell a little bit about your story and how you awakened
Absolutely.
to, your Atlantean connections and the merfolk and everybody. Yeah, all of them.
Okay, sure. So professionally, I go by Ameera Atlantis. And, I actually took that part of my name on professionally, kind of like as a joke on Facebook a few years ago. I was like, I wonder if I'm just going to put Ameera Atlantis as my name and see what happens. And like the vibration of that felt so good to my soul, that frequency of that I rebranded everything
Wow.
to Atlantis, because I've been teaching and talking about Atlantis, Lemuria, and the mer people of Atlantis for many, many years, after I had my awakening and my full-blown remembrance of being an Atlantean mermaid. And so kind of backtrack up to my life. I was married and living in the suburbs of Arizona, had 3 children, including a little baby, driving a minivan. And this was about 14, 15 years ago, right? And I just thought that was going to be my life. I just thought that was going to be my life. And you know how you look back before your awakening, before you get the big awakening, and you remember like the little taps from spirit or the shoves from spirit that you ignore,
Right.
that you don't pay attention to, right? Until something really dramatic sometimes has to happen to like jar us, sometimes quite dramatically, into an awakening. And so in December of 2004, and mind you, I was a very unawakened individual my whole life. December 2004, I was in Arizona, and I was watching a show on Oprah. And Oprah that month and year did a show about women who were in their 30s, and what their life was like from all over the world. And, she had some of them on stage and some of them Skyped in, and most of them had very, very different lives and upbringings than I did as a suburban housewife, living in Arizona. But something happened as I began to listen to the words of those women. And as I looked into their eyes, I felt a connection with them, like a soul connection with them, with each one of them that I had never experienced in my life before. And I started bawling. Like I cried through that whole show because my heart just opened and I loved them so much. And I couldn't figure out why I was having this intense reaction that I've never even had, like with my birth sisters or with my girlfriends. I just bawled through the whole show. And I know now that, you know, my heart chakra opened, and I was having this awakening that was actually very disturbing. Actually not fun, because I didn't know what was happening to me. And I, you know, told my husband at that time, you know, I was crying for days. There's these women on Oprah and I just love them and I can't get them out of my mind. And he was like, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on here. And I recognize now, you know, now looking back, that that was my first experience with the divine feminine and with goddess energy, and understanding sisterhood and unity and oneness.
Wow.
So as a result of that, you know, suddenly one thing leads to another. And I got a book from Dr. Wayne Dyer, from a girlfriend of mine, that talked about, you know, the law of attraction and frequency. And I started reading about, you know, God and source is something different than my Catholic upbringing, and having these things happen. And I just went on this accelerated journey into remembering who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing here, which was not just being a housewife and a mother.
Right. So much more, right? You were
So
invited
that
to
was the
more.
beginning.
That was
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't know what was happening. Nobody around me was awakened. I felt like I was losing my mind. I did work with a healer friend of mine that I'd known, for a psychic that I went to, you know, for like the silly stuff in my, right, like my boyfriends, my relationships and things. And I sat down in front of her a few weeks later than that, and I started to cry. And I said, I am losing my mind. Something's happening. I saw these women. I saw this show on Oprah. I'm reading this book. I feel I'm hearing my name called in the middle of the night. And I said, I think I'm losing my mind. And she very calmly looked at me and said, oh, no, you've just woken up. I've been waiting years for this. And I looked at her and I said, put me back to sleep. I don't like this. I don't like it at all.
It is. It's a whole new world, isn't it? It's a whole new, it's a lot of moreness. There's
Yes.
like everything, all of a sudden, things that, as you're describing, that weren't accessible to you before, is
Right.
now alive and awake and in
And
your
I didn't know what
awareness.
any of it was.
Right. You don't have a language. You don't have any
Right.
language to describe what's happening to you. And the people in your life, like your husband at the time, right? It just, they don't have the skills to support this
No.
because it's not happening to them. They are asleep
Right.
oftentimes, and pleasantly so, like ignorance is bliss kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
It was a very lonely time in my life. It was magical, but at the same time, very lonely. And for anybody who's, you know, watching out there, if you have gone through or going through your own awakening and you're by yourself, essentially, because the people around you don't understand or can't relate, like, I get it. Like, I get what like a challenging time that can be, to feel like you're this square peg in a round hole, you know, of the world, and really how, you know, how much loneliness can also come with that.
Yes. Yes. And I think that is also part of the journey. It's part of what grows your faith. It's part of
Right.
what makes you trust
Yeah.
in the frequencies that are leading you. With discernment, it brings in all these things, right? I didn't have the words discernment. I didn't have a lot of this language before. But when
Right.
you're in that loneliness and when you know you don't have the language to even tell yourself what's happening to you, but all you can do is respond to the messages that you're getting and the awareness that's expanding. Some
And
people it can
follow
be a
it.
very beautiful experience, but for a lot of
Mhm.
people, it's wild. It puts you on a little bit of a wild journey until the waters calm
Mhm.
and you get a new kind of grounding because you start remembering who you are. That
Right.
becomes your inner compass. And it sounds like in your journey. So it's interesting that you said December 2004 because that was what kicked off my awakening time.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay.
I got nudges in 2003, but in December 2004, I like it catalyzed my experience. And
Mhm.
2004 to at least 2008 or 2009, I was in the thick of it, like a 5 year dark
Intense,
night of the soul.
intense. Yes.
Intense, intense.
Yep.
Do you see
Yeah.
that a lot of people that are awakening to their bigger purpose. Was that a critical window? I mean, it was just before 2012, which everybody was anticipating at around that time as we were awakening to even be paying attention to 2012 and all those messages. But I wonder if there was a whole soul group, a soul cluster awakening at that
I
time.
kind of feel like there was, like 2004, 2005, 2006. There was just a big movement, some kind of whoosh of energy where spirit said, okay, all you people like walking in a circle, we're going to do something big to help you along, because the world needs you to awaken, it needs your superpowers.
Right. And sometimes you have a super intense challenge or something that awakens you to awaken
Yes.
the superpowers. The superpower
Right.
part doesn't come without the tension or, the sloughing off of the old belief systems, things that are going to
Right.
shatter the world that you were in.
It's like that tarot card, the tower, the tarot card, all your belief systems, everything you think you know about yourself and God and life kind of comes crashing down around you. And, for me, a big part of that was at a couple years into my awakening, I was a daily meditator and I was reading everything I could get my hands on, just trying to learn and keep up and figure out what I was supposed to be doing in the world. And I was meditating one day and my hands and my arms began to move independently of my asking them to, like something coming up within or around me, moving through my entire body. And I didn't know what was going on. And it was a little bit frightening, but it also felt strangely familiar and comforting. And I found that as I just yielded to it, and then started moving maybe around, the person I was married to, his headaches would go away, my children would be soothed, whatever was coming through me, whatever movement it was like helping people. So I had just discovered and read Many Lives, Many Masters, Dr. Brian Weiss, and discovered regression therapy. And I thought, well, maybe if I go have a past life regression, this will help tell me what's going on. And so by then we had moved to Portland, Oregon. And I contacted a woman named Julia Ingram, who was a very well-known psychologist and professional in the Portland area, scheduled a regression. She put me down on her couch, talked me into the hypnosis, and I went like this somatically. I'm a mermaid, diving up and down on her couch, looking at this underwater city. And all I could think was, this woman is going to think I'm crazy for saying, because I didn't even think mermaids were a real thing back then. Right. And she just encouraged me and acknowledged what was happening and asked me more questions. And I went into a full-blown remembrance of being in a mer body, going down to an underwater city, which I would later learn was Merlantis, and then stepping into my mermaid lineage, my Atlantean lineage, learning everything I could about the mer world, Atlantis, how they're connected, and starting to bring that back out into the world.
And the world needs it at this time, because that's so much of what's coming up. We're going to talk a little bit more about Lemuria and Atlantis, but when I first heard you talking about Merlantis on your YouTube channel and in your messages, what is the difference between Merlantis then and Atlantis?
So Merlantis and Atlantis are sister cities. One is under the sea, and then one is above ground.
Right.
So the Mer kingdom, the Mer city where I am from and where the Mer people are from, Merlantis, we were the beings who came to the surface of the waters of Atlantis and helped the Atlanteans, the new Atlanteans in their bodies, their new earth bodies with their 5 senses and all the human things, acclimate to life as a 3rd dimensional human with a 5th dimensional consciousness.
So in the devolvement of our higher dimensional selves, you were instrumental. The Mer people of Merlantis,
yes,
were instrumental in helping, Atlantean beings who were starting to come into human form.
Right.
Wow, helping them. I would call it the dissension process. You were helping them acclimate to lower dimensional experiences.
We were helping them to be fully human with all the emotional components, the sensory components, that go along with the joy of being human. And at the same time, they were fifth dimensional consciousness beings. So figuring how to navigate the human world and a third dimensional body, if you've never been that before, it can be kind of wonderful and probably very wrought with a learning curve. So we were there to teach them about the cycles of nature, taught them about the moon cycles. We taught them about the importance of sacred geometry and the geometries. We taught them about the importance of how to navigate their emotions, because those higher dimensional beings, it's not that they don't have emotions, they don't really have emotions like we do. They don't have the breadth and the depth of all the things that we discover as being human. And this is why they decided to become human, we're creators, right? We're experimenters. So we help them to navigate the natural world around them. Of course, mer people love humans. You remember the story of Ariel, where she really wanted to be where the people were. We felt the same way. We just thought they were the most magnificent creatures. And we made agreement before Atlantis was formed to help them to learn how to be on this earth and enjoy this earth. Many of us would come up to a portal in front of the Temple of Poseidon. We would shapeshift and grow legs. So we would take on a temporary human-ish form in order to be with them and to teach them and to learn from them as well.
A lot of our stories aren't just stories, are they? Right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. They're myths and mythology that tell us a history.
Right, right. And when some people are it's their time of return, which I think that's what the planet is going through.
Right.
In a recent message I got from the guides, just this last month, they were saying ascension is now required. Like it's a requirement for those who are going to stay. We have to raise our frequency. So I would imagine if the mer people helped us acclimate to these lower density and these physical bodies, then you're here to help us rise.
The mer people have returned in a huge amount of numbers. Mermaid iconography has been huge in the world over the last years. Every little girl wants to be a mermaid. You see mermaid tails. There's a reason that iconography has come out of the unconscious and returned to the conscious, because we have reincarnated to once again help humanity with now the ascension process. So the mer hold the templates of the divine feminine. So we hear the rise of the goddess and the feminine rising. The mer beings hold those templates. We hold those grids through the element of water. So there are many people now who feel like them. I talk to women and some men all the time who just know that they are an incarnated mermaid, either Lemurian or Atlantean. And so I give them that validation that yes, that is your lineage. That is what that is the line of energy, the aspect you are here to hold and bring and regift the earth. That, along with the integration of the reunionization and harmonization of the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
It makes so much sense. Like in all this duality, we're coming back into complementary polarity, where we're integrating, like you're saying. And whether people are doing this consciously or unconsciously, it's more joyful and it's a little bit easier with a little more grace if you're conscious of it. You can struggle a little bit more or even resist it, but we're all being called into that integration.
Yes.
I think many of us have journeyed into some of that resistance, and but we know what it's like when you finally drop the resistance. It gets so much easier.
Right.
And I think your messages that you bring through, it's empowering. It's like an invitation. It's like welcoming. It's almost like inviting people into their own birth canal, if you will. Right. From this womb of experience that we've been in to birth into the next level of incarnational experiences. Right.
Well, and that goes hand in hand with that, after I had that past life regression, it affected me so deeply and changed my life so profoundly that I worked with my regression therapist and went through 3 levels of past life regression training, because I wanted to give other people the experience that I had, that firsthand knowledge and soul reconnection to, your origins, your mission, your purpose, your gifts, and the fact that we're multidimensional beings. Like, we exist on many lines of time simultaneously. We are really here to gather and integrate many aspects of ourselves that are helping us with our own ascension, and we're actually helping heal them and their own ascension templates also. So, a past life regression or a soul progression, which is hypnosis, to help people connect with their guides, their higher guidance, their guides and angels, are tools to help us to reconnect and remember our multidimensional selves and more about our soul mission with God.
Is there anything better? I mean,
not much, not really.
Right.
That realized and executed is the best.
It is the best. And I wanted to ask you another question, but you are about to offer a class for a small cohort of people who you're opening up this reconnection for them to journal their souls.
Well, the course is called Learn Hypnosis for Guided Meditation and Journey Writing. So I teach past life regression therapy through hypnosis also. I can teach you if you would like to become a regression therapist. I also teach a course where you use the induction, the hypnosis dialogue, to take people, to set the tone, to take people into trance and allow them to receive a guided meditation or a journey.
And that links into what people know as automatic handwriting. Is it similar?
No, it would be you and me sit down together. You're my client, and I read the induction and I place you in the trance and take you on a journey. So there's I would have pre-written or pre-planned a guided meditation to offer you, or to offer a course. And this gives you the induction, the words to put people in the trance state to receive your pre-written journey, or your shamanic journey, or your guided meditation. And so I teach the ethics around hypnosis, because ethics and responsibility around the art of hypnosis are very important, right? There's a lot of responsibility that goes along with that. You learn the induction to take other people into that suggestible or hypnotic state, to take them on some kind of a guided meditation or journey that is going to help them in life. So that class is happening in May 21st and 28th. For about 3 hours, we meet online. We learn the induction. I teach you how to execute the art of hypnosis for your clients and students, help you write guided meditations and journeys. And then we also have a one-on-one meeting together, so that I can help you kind of hone for your specific audience, for your specific courses and things like that.
Wow. And so I'm asking out of my own curiosity, but I also want to ask for the audience who's listening to this, if we couldn't make the class that's coming up, because I know I have a conflict on the 21st, people can get the same instruction, the same guidance, the same experience if they had like 1 or 2 sessions with you one-on-one?
I will do a one-on-one training for this. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll do a one-on-one training. Normally I record courses and then post them to purchase later, but this is very experiential.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to be shared really heartbeat to heartbeat, and not just because, again, the ethics and the responsibility that go along with answering the questions and making sure people really understand and are responsible with what they are doing and how they are handling their clients is something that needs to be done on an interpersonal level. So for anybody who can't make the course, the 2-day course, I do offer a one-on-one training. Or if you have a small group of people you would like to bring together, I would do that offering for your personal group as well. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Many of the people who would listen to this podcast know that I do soul readings, and I've experienced Brian Weiss in a workshop before. And, but I think there's something really beautiful when you talk about leading us into facilitating this for other people. I have not done that before. So I'm very, I think a lot of the energy in my body is saying, yes, please
Nice.
do that. Yes. Right. So I have this question then. If the Mer people worked with the people of Atlantis, I'm so Lemuria connected. Were the Mer people also working with the Lemurians, or was it the fairy realms working with the Lemurians?
I believe the Mer people also worked with Lemurians. So the Mintaka is the Stargate that all the Mer people passed through, the family of Mu, to come to this planet. And I remember the Mer people came from Mintaka via other star systems. But Mintaka, which is the westernmost star in Orion's belt, was the portal or the Stargate that we came through, that the dolphins, the whales, all those who seeded original Earth, seeded the grids of the water before land masses formed. So if you consider yourself to be Mer, you would have moved through that Stargate, or even part of the family of Mu. That's where you would have moved through to come to Earth. And so before Atlantis was Lemuria, Mu was first.
Mu was first, right? Yes.
Mu was first. So there would have been, and I remember Lemuria, I remember being in the water. I don't remember ever coming up out of the water like Atlantis, but the Mer were here from the very beginning, making the way, making the waters, co-creating the planet for the family of Mu to arrive. So when the family of Mu came down and settled on what would be, you know, Earth or Terra or Mu, the Lemurian mermaids were there as assistants, but we did not directly, except from the water, interact with them like we did in Atlantis. The Lemurians came down, I guess I would just say in some ways more highly evolved. They were physical, but not as physical as the Atlanteans. So there was more of a physical body than a spirit body, but it was not as 3D as the Atlanteans. So the original Mu beings were able to retain a fifth dimensional consciousness and a lighter light body, I guess you should say, than the Atlanteans, just because the Atlantean experiment was different than the Lemurian experience.
This group of souls that came in, like I've read a lot of things. I think what I've heard the most, the people that came through to the land of Mu first and formed Lemuria, that there was like this experiment of consciousness, right?
Right.
And it was a bunch of star races that came together. But the Pleiadians, is this what you understand?
The Pleiadians are a big, a big group. Yeah, definitely. But there's Arcturian, Syrian, all the races of beings came to participate. And again, the experience was to, their bodies, the way they moved through life, what they ate, everything was a different type of experience than what the Atlanteans had.
Right.
So this is why we talked about before the end of Lemuria.
Right.
When Lemuria went down, because the Lemurians never forgot they were eternal beings. They recognized it was the end of an era, the end of an epoch, and time for something else. They knew there was no death, and they knew that they were eternal beings, and they held hands and they sang, and they went under the waves knowing that they were going to rise right back up again and be fine. And for those, you mentioned who maybe lamented a little bit more in Lemuria and suffer a little bit more, I believe that were some Lemurians who chose to take on more of physical density. You could create yourself kind of however you wanted from one end of the spectrum to the other if you were Lemurian. I believe some of the Lemurians wanted to take on more of a human physical form, which might mean that there's a little bit of not fall in a bad way, but a dissension in consciousness that would just kind of go hand in hand, because again, we're experimenters, we're creators.
Right. And we know when it's time, we'll create our way right back out, right?
Yep, exactly. It's like, I think I'm done with this part of the experiment. I'm going to try this part. I'm going to see what this is like.
Right. Well, I was sharing that before we got on this call, and I've said it in some other podcasts before, but the furthest back memory that I have, which is pretty far back if you can remember Lemuria, right? It is pretty far back, but I think I could go a little farther if I attend one of your classes.
Sure.
It was being in the water when, even though they knew there was an end of an epoch, they thought that there was more time. They thought they had more time. And I think they thought they had like another 12-ish thousand years, which for them, time was different then, but they still felt like they had more time. So it still was sudden and unexpected when it happened.
Right.
And I remember being in the water with like floating pieces of Lemuria in the cataclysmic energy. And I just remember being with my colleagues and my peers, like my beloved soul siblings, right, with me. And they must have still, I had never had that language before, must have been beings who chose to stay more in their light body, weren't identifying with this physical body as much. But I had a lot of the consciousness they had, but I was identified with this. I was identified more with, I don't know if it was a righteousness. I'd have to really close my eyes and feel into the vibration, but almost like what became in future lives from then, a bit of activism of what had been done to us by the Atlanteans. I was
Right.
holding on to that.
Yes.
And I
Well,
couldn't let it go.
yes. And
Not
part
for
of
a
being
long time.
human is we attach. Being human, no matter how much we hear, non-attachment, whatever, we're human and it's natural for us to attach. We attach to people. We attach to our belongings. We attach to situations, right? We have emotional attachments to things and other people and experiences. And that really is just a natural part of being human. So what you experienced, that was you stepping more into your human self and seeing what the contrast of that was going to be like.
Yes.
And along with that also comes some emotions that are not so pleasant once you step over that line in that realm. But again, that's just you being a creative being and wanting to understand what it is like to have attachments and to feel human. Yeah.
And there was a commitment made to myself, which I've journeyed since then. And this is a bit of a full circle lifetime for me. From that, I wanted to understand what my family around me in the waters knew that I wasn't like. I remembered feeling, how was I not seeing? What was I not knowing that they knew? And I think in my lifetimes of experience, I've been looking for those clues of where's the truth in the density? Where is the truth in the illusion that this is, right? And journeying that and coming through this and having a catalytic experience in December 2004 that set me on a journey to awaken to all of this. And I found my way to Lemuria. I read a lot of the books. That's what we do. We go to find all the teachers and messengers, so you can kind of get in the frequency of what you're already knowing, but the gears are a little rusty, right? So you oil these inner gears with those resources. And it was just a few years ago, though, because 2004 was it's about 20 years ago. A friend of mine mentioned Andara Crystals. And in all the learning and awakening I had about Lemuria, it must have not been my time all that time. So it's just been in the last few years that I learned about Andara Crystals. And the minute she said the word Andara, my whole crown chakra lit up like the Avatar and Avatar: The Last Airbender. Have you ever seen that show?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know why that happened?
Please tell me.
Because I believe Andaras are Lemurian.
Yes.
I believe the Andaras were gifts from the Lemurians to the Atlanteans to help them remember fifth dimensional and above consciousness. During my regressions, all these years ago, going through my awakenings, I would regress into the Temple of Poseidon and into the healing caverns that were underneath the temple, and they were dark, but illuminated by these beautiful, brightly colored, glowing crystals that seemed to glow from within. This is way before I met the Andaras. And I used to comment, like, there's these beautiful crystals above people healing chakras and all around the caves. And I said, I don't know what they are, but they're beautiful. And many years later, after I met the Andaras, I realized that's what I saw. And the Andaras told me that they were Lemurian and gifts from Lemuria. Andaras are like a ray of light you could hold in your hand. If you could condense light into matter, you would have an Andara.
Right? And this is how we connected. I bought one of her pendants because I wanted to wear them. I have a lot of the Andara crystals, but I don't wear them. And all of a sudden this has been downloading to me. I need to have them on my body.
Everybody should be wearing an Andara. They're like a homing device.
Yes.
You know, they are like something that leads your soul back to home, back to truth, and back to peace. Doesn't matter if you're Atlantean, Lemurian, whoever you are, they're very universal. They meet you where you are at and integrate where you are at. And literally when you're, you know, looking at, say, my website and you see the right Andara, it will call to you. Like it will call to you like a homing device.
Yes. A friend of mine has a crystal boutique here locally in my area. And once I heard about the Andaras, I just knew that I was going to have one. And my friend mentioned they tend to be a little bit more expensive than some of your other crystals. And I was like, okay. And I didn't really know what that meant. But I reached out to my friend who has this shop, and she didn't have any in her store, but she connected with a shaman, somebody who was able to connect, because that's another thing we need to talk about. The ones that are true Andaras come from a very specific, special place, right?
Well, there are many things that are true at once sometimes. And yes, the original Andara seeding was found in the Sierra Nevadas. So the first Andara was found in February of 1967 on the property of a lady named Lady Nellie. She is a Choctaw Indian woman. The first Andara was pulled up out of the ground February 1967, which happens to be the year and month of my birth. So the Andaras and I, we're the same earth age. We're very, very aligned. After the first was found, of course, many over years were found, and that was the first place they were coming out of. I have since learned that there have been other pockets in California where people have found Andaras. And now I have an Andara from South Africa. That is my favorite Andara. There are some Andaras coming out of Indonesia also. So there are other places that are delivering Andaras. They're kind of, the Andara craze is on. I mean, they're everywhere. But there are also a lot of Andaras that are not true. They're not real. They're fabricated. I would say anything that you have been told comes out of China, don't buy it. Don't buy anything somebody says this came from China. It's just pretty glass.
Right. And is it the frequency that you feel? Because, and I think there's two sides to that story, because some people may not be ready for the vibration and the codes of a true Andara. I remember someone, when I did some podcasts early on, when I had rediscovered them, somebody wrote me an email and said, like, was concerned about my credibility on my channel talking about Andaras, because like they felt with the research they had done that they were known to be scams. And I remembered saying I appreciated them reaching out, but all I can say is my whole body is like alive with energy with them. And so I think that some people could even be holding a true Andara, and if they don't have the song of that Andara or that frequency in their energy field, they won't hear it. They won't feel it. Do you find that?
Well, and I think that can be true, especially if somebody has done research and then picked one up because their subconscious have already decided it's fake. Right. And there are a lot of slag glass fake Andaras. I have some, and they feel dead. I used to buy, before I learned all about Andaras, buy from a website, very, very cheaply get them. And they would come to me and they would feel like they had no life force. And I couldn't figure out why they didn't feel as good as the ones I got from the Sierra Nevada. So I was like, why does this feel like so flat? Well, then I recognized it was very inexpensive for a reason. I learned the website was selling slag glass, and there is a lot of that out there. So some of the concerns and the information is legitimate, because there's a lot of people who are taking pretty glass and passing it off as an Andara. And so Andaras have become very controversial. But like you, anybody who has held a true Andara, and Andara treasure chest, I send out Andaras out to very aligned, high consciousness healers, teachers, people who get them, and they have the same reaction you do. Like their body, something inside of them just reawakens, and you get an alignment from the center of your body that moves up through the ground, down to the earth, back out to the side, right? And it just it lights up and illuminates all the electromagnetic particles of your body to that remembrance of, well, especially Mu, you know, particularly Mu and the origins of Mu. But anytime that you have in a past life or other life interacted with an Andara, that essence, that energy will come back to you. And you know when you have a true Andara in your hand because you feel it to your core.
You feel it to your core. And my friend that I reached out to, the shaman got back to her and he had them all these Andaras that I believe were high frequency, and she's high frequency being. And they were all the different colors. And I was just to pick from this picture which one felt like it
Yeah.
was for me, right? And I saw this one on that blanket and I knew
Yeah.
it was for
You
me.
knew that
And
was
just
yours.
it's like you see in movies where like
That
fantasy movies.
that teal color, I call that the Mintonkan blue. Like, to me, that is the essence. And I have some of that color on my website. That is the essence of Mintaka. So it's no wonder, because you're part of the family of Mu. It's no
Right?
wonder that one that one hollered at you.
It's so helpful. When we make our picture bigger, these intuitions or these feelings that we have, it all starts to have a place in our story.
Right.
Otherwise, if we are trying to use the same level of sight, right, and we shrink our vision, these frequencies that are trying to help us expand and evolve, they're not accessible to us, and people
Yeah.
then can think that a real Andara is a scam. And I think
Yes.
we have to be very discerning, and we might buy something that's fake, right? But you'll learn when you hold the fake one in your hand and you hold the real one, your body will tell you that you can
Yes.
discern the difference.
Yep. Can we
Right?
talk a little bit about Andara skulls?
Please, please.
Okay, so skulls in general, you know, anytime you've heard about the 13 crystal skulls, skulls in general are helping to elevate the collective consciousness of humanity. So the Andaras, and so there are many, many Andara skulls that are coming forward right now. Andara skulls are fairly new to the Andara family because we're finally ready for them. The skull, and you know, and anything that has a particular shape is going to have the frequency of what it holds, you know. So a skull, like for instance, this is one of the skulls that I offer. This is an Atlantean gold man.
Wow.
Okay, so the Atlantean skulls are taking our consciousness, the consciousness of humanity, our learning, our growth, and our connection to lands like Mu and Atlantis, and bringing them down into, you know, into form. And when you connect, or when you have a skull or wearing a skull pendant, hey, you're actually carrying something that is talking to the most ancient part of your brain and talking to most ancient part of your subconscious memories and waking that up. So the Andara skulls in particular are aligning people to soul purpose, soul mission, past lives, other lives, multidimensional lives, and helping people like pull in more of their authentic soul truth and execute their ascension out into the world, or execute their ascension and, you know, and growth potential, I guess you would say. So if you're interested in the Andara, the skulls are, and I have lots of them on my website, and skull pendants, they're kind of next level.
Wow. They feel next level.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and you have to be attuned. That's what happens when you get your first Andaras. That for me, it was this one, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get your tuning up, and then you
They
get
will
to a
attune
place.
you. They will attune you. They
Yes.
will meet you where you're at. I don't believe anybody gets an Andara unless they're ready for it. Okay, so if you're attracted to an Andara, if an Andara comes your way, it's because you're ready for it. It's because your soul has called out to the Andara family, to the essence of the Andara, and even it will meet you where you are at, even if it shocks you a little bit for the moment. You know, you will integrate and calibrate because that Andara has the innate wisdom to come to you and raise you higher. So it won't make you, it used to be like when Andaras were new, people would get an Andara and they would be like, I can't sleep. What's going on, right? I've got this thing, it's blowing my circuits. Humanity has raised enough in consciousness that now you get them. It's kind of a momentary integration, and then you can follow along as the Andara takes you on a journey.
And can I add to that? That's so powerful, because often when I would shop and feel a particular crystal that was meant for me, whether it was quartz crystal or
Yeah,
whatever that might be, it was to support me in my
right.
work, to receive messages, for me to be a channel. It would like raise my frequency basically, or it
Yes.
would support me to focus, or whatever that might be. But the Andara crystals feel like, at least for me, that they have messages they want to give to us.
Yes, they do. And
They're
they will
talking. They're
activate
talking
all your other
crystals.
crystals. They will activate all your other crystals. They're
Yes.
taking all our other favorite crystals and they're helping them up level to the next echelon as well. And yes, you're correct. Andaras have messages. You'll hear your Andara give you a message right off the computer screen when you find the right one.
Exactly. And it's so powerful, like this, and it makes everything. This is one of the ways people can tap into the magic. And they can be open to it if they look at your site and they feel like, for what, maybe they'd have, say somebody has the experience, they don't feel one talking, look again, look the
Yeah.
next day, look another week from now. Maybe the one that was meant to talk to you just wanted your attention.
Yes.
And now you go back and you will find the one that's meant for you, right?
You might find many that are meant for you. Most people go and they're like, oh my gosh, there's like 20 of these I want. Well, how do I decide? Well, the good news is there's never a wrong choice. There's never a wrong choice. You are always going to choose the Andara partner, the Andara helper that will help you in this moment. And it could be that there's several of them. Okay. So just follow your heart, follow your intuition and your guidance. Okay. And just allow that being, because they are conscious, alive beings. They're like family to me. You know, they're like my children.
Right? Yes.
You know, they're like my partners. And just allow them to come into your life, meet you where you are at, and help you on an unconscious level. Sleep with them. I always recommend people sleep with your Andara. Wear one if you can wear it. Keep it in your pocket and just let it work its magic. And don't worry about how it's all going to unfold. Just allow.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. For me, I think there's always this, maybe it is a Mer. I have never connected with like my ancient past of being part of the Mer people, but it sounds like it's very possible with my connections to you and this particular crystal. And there's a song. I think that there's like, we all have a soul signature that's a song frequency. And I think the Andaras have a song. And I think that's why we are instruments and they're an instrument. And when you resonate at the frequency, just like musical instruments do, then that's what this is meant to do, that the world begins to
it's a
become.
harmonization.
Right?
It's a harmonization. Yes.
It is so beautiful. It was so beautiful. There's so many things I would love to talk to you about or delve a little deeper. Maybe we can do this again. But I wanted to bring up two more things that you offer on your website briefly here. One is it the new Atlantis Rising? It's the new Rising of Atlantis. It's like a church community,
The temple of the new Atlantis. Yes. Okay. So back when we were in COVID and everybody was losing their jobs or getting kicked out of school because they needed to be vaccinated, I felt very emotional about that. I felt very emotional about people's choice for body sovereignty being removed and people basically being forced to feed their families or not, overtaking something they felt was against the biochemistry of their body and their ethics and their own integrity. I felt very strongly about that. And I'm a runner and I was out running and I was just fuming to God, you know, I'm like, how can I do? What about this? You know, these people need an exemption, you know, they need, you know, a religious exemption or some kind of a medical exemption to, you know, to be able to bypass this. So people like have a choice to stay true to themselves. Right. And I'm fuming to God about this. And I hear this voice say, well, Ameera, start a church. I went, what? Yeah. Start a church and write your own exemption. I was like, I can do that. Because I have these conversations, right? And they're like, of course you can. And so I was like, wow. And I did a little video on Facebook after that. I said, you know, I got this message, you guys. to start a church, like a nonprofit church, and write my own religious exemption. So those of you who are struggling with this have the ability to make a choice. And, I got great response from it, and found out one thing after another, found out how to form a private ministry association and an unincorporated association that is not associated with any type of government entity. So my private ministry association is not in the public sector. It is in the private sector. My unincorporated association is a nonprofit that has no affiliation with state or federal government. I have an EIN, an employment identification number, simply for checking account purposes only. And I started this church, within a couple of weeks. I had a website. I had, a donation portal, and I wrote a beautiful religious exemption that talked about the sacredness of our body, our connection to God as ultimate law, natural law as ultimate law, and that my soul, my body belongs to that which created me and not to the law of man. And I put that out there in the world, and I had overwhelming responsibility. I asked $22 for a donation, optional, to help me fund everything that I was doing to create the church. And I sent out dozens and dozens of these exemption forms to people, saved many, many jobs. I don't even know how many jobs, kept people in school, and, had these people who had the option to join the Temple of the New Atlantis by choice if they wanted to. And I'm co-creating a community online, a safe and sacred space for those of us who know and understand and walk universal God's law as the ultimate. And also those of us who are in alignment with co-creating the new Earth Atlantis timelines is what I called it. We are co-creating, we are writing and course correcting the Atlantean timelines, the timeline that happened 13,000 years ago at the end during the last fall. We are actually now course creating and healing that spiral of time, all the experiments, the AI, all the things that you see out in the world now. Of course, we're repeating them because we have to heal them.
Right.
We have to go back into the thick of it and make a new choice. And the new choice is going to be to choose the organic, to choose what God has made, choose our souls. Okay, and the only way that we can reestablish or course create these new timelines is to revisit them again and collectively, individually make a different choice. So the Temple of the New Atlantis is something that is online, but will one day maybe be, brick and mortar, be an actual physical thing out in the world for the new co-creation of the Atlantean and Lemurian timelines we are anchoring here on Earth.
And to you, that was so beautiful, all that you just shared. When you talked earlier, when you talked earlier about the masculine and feminine coming into that integration, do you see that this is something else that's also with Atlantis rising? Is it an Atlantis Lemuria frequency coming together as one, or is it Atlantis rising and it'll be, time's not linear, but
you're so smart. Okay, so Atlantis and Lemuria existed side by side at one time. Right? Lemuria the feminine, Atlantis the masculine. Okay. They existed side by side. And when the right brain Atlanteans decided to overtake, the left brain, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
The feminine, right?
Yes.
There was a split in the macrocosm between the masculine and feminine, the energies that these two lands held together. There was a break in that. And there was also a break in the microcosm between the masculine and feminine in humanity, because what happens on the macrocosmic scale affects the microcosmic scale. So yes, it is important for the two wings of the bird, the masculine and the feminine, Atlantis and Lemuria, to come together as one and fly straight, right? That is everything. My part of the deal is to work on the Atlantean timelines and the Atlantean course correction. The Lemurian timelines, I feel, are well established. The divine feminine that the Lemurian and the Mer hold is well established. It's anchored in. It's about the integration now on the macrocosmic level and the integration on the microcosmic level within each and every one of us. We are the anchor points.
Wow. And it comes through like our own. If I was talking to you about this 20 years ago, I still had a lot more pain about what happened between Lemuria and Atlantis, and the warring and the destruction that went on, and the loss of family,
right?
All levels of family. And but there's a part of me that knows that we're having this conversation today as just seeding that into our listeners, that for those that resonate with this, it is time to allow ourselves to move through. I mean, I cried for it when I discovered Lemuria. I just started weeping. I mean, like where you felt like you were swimming in your awakening.
Yes.
I awoke to what I knew about Lemuria, and all I could do was sob at its, like, the grief that I was still holding from all that time. And I just knew that I would cry until I was done. And in 12 months, it took me 12 months to cry all those water frequencies of emotions out. And then I was okay. I came to this place that I was okay. And here I am now, many years later, having a conversation with you of like being people who are willing to give language to this integration, this deep forgiveness, to like heal up the leaks in our energy field about this like trauma, this soul trauma that many people on the planet experience. A lot of people who are here, we know, were there at that time.
Here's how we heal. Here's how we do it. Here's how we heal. We are multidimensional beings, all of us. I had an aspect of me that was in Atlantis doing genetic experiments, doing heinous things to other beings, merging them together, their cells, their DNA, just to see what happened. And when I remembered that, I remembered I was reading a Dolores Cannon book. And when I read an accounting that someone had of being an Atlantean scientist. And when I read that, I knew I had done that. I dropped the book on my lap and I bawled and exclaimed, in remorse. Oh my God, I was horrified at a full-blown remembrance that I had done that too. You and I are multidimensional beings. Not only do I have an aspect in the Mer, I had an aspect in Atlantis, probably more than one. Lemuria, you had aspects. Not only were you in Lemuria, you have other aspects of you that were in other realms and realities, some of them doing really terrible things. We have all been perpetrators. We have all been victims. As a regression therapist, something that I have learned is we are all of it. It's very easy to remember being the hero. It's very easy to remember being the victim. When you go into a perpetrator lifetime where you did some horrific acts and you learn that you are that too, that's when you get the realization that we are truly all one, that we are all responsible for everything that's happening on this planet, and having a grudge and having shadows is doing nothing to serve you except keep you in that spiral of grief and separation. Okay, so I know part of my job, part of your job here on this timeline is to heal our other aspects. I have decided to take on the karma of that Atlantean scientist and probably a lot of other beings where I wasn't so nice. Okay, take on their karma, shift that into dharma, and make all things right so the totality of my soul can ascend. We're not just ascending you on this timeline. You are ascending the totality of the aspects of your being who maybe can't do it for themselves from wherever they are at, and they're looking to you to help them. This is why we go to past life regressions. This is why we do shamanic journeys. This is why we meditate. This is why we learn, because you are ascending those other parts of your oversoul back up to your oversoul at the same time you are helping and healing yourself.
It's so beautiful when you say it like that. And it is beautiful. And what's powerful is anyone listening to a podcast on your channel or my channel like these, we are the ones, the version of ourselves here right now in physical form, have the tools, have the ability to do this transmutational work.
We do. That's why we're here.
Right.
That's why we have all these great tools and healers and things out there. Yeah.
And the Andaras can support us in that journey. They have the codes to heal the grief and to transmute that and make that usable life force again into the more beautiful things we want to create.
And they just make you feel good. They just remember that lights, colors hold a vibration and a frequency. Colors, usually we align with certain colors because they make us feel good. When you receive an Andara that has that light frequency or that color, that hue that your soul recognizes, there's something about it that is so joyful and healing and pleasant, and they just make you feel better. And that's really one of the keys to creating is joy, right? Being happy, creating from a place of like joy.
Right. So I guess I'll ask this maybe as we close out, and with the Andaras, and it's interesting. I associate another level of my awakening in the last few years with this Andara awakening, taking me to another level. When I look at your Andaras on your website, which is AmeeraAtlantis.com, right? That's your website?
Right. That's my website. And then the store is AndaraTreasureChest.com.
AndaraTreasureChest.com. So I know a lot of people are going to be shopping.
Can I give you a discount code? Can I give everybody a discount code?
Okay.
Please. So I kind of leave this on evergreen. So even if you're watching this in 5 years, it'll still be on there. Andara 15, Andara in capital letters, and the number 15 will get you 15% off a purchase. So that's the secret. No matter what is on there as a promotion, Andara 15 is on there to pick. And it doesn't matter if you just pick out a little piece or a big giant piece. We have all of that and everything between. It doesn't matter. Just get what fits your budget, right? And fits your soul.
Right. And fits your soul. And that's what I was feeling. Like, I know those skulls, like you said, that's next level. I feel an attraction to that. So I'm going to be going and looking. But it's the same thing, because you can get crystal skulls in other gemstones, and certain ones will call and certain ones won't. I'm sure there's certain Andara color frequencies in the skulls. And that's what people are like, just like you shop, for lack of a better example right now, is Amazon. If you're looking and there's like, you need a new handbag and there's 20 that come up in a search, you're feeling for like texture and color and vibe and style. Same thing with the Andara crystals. You're really listening for your match. You're really listening for the one that's calling to you, or multiple. But it's a whole new level of being conscious in your creation. And I do feel like, as much as the Andara crystals are helping us to heal those maybe broken aspects, or that's how we might feel them in the victim consciousness of ourselves, they're also here. They want to create with us. They want to create this new earth. They want to create this new experience with us. And we have the codes. We just have to unlock those codes, and Andaras can help, right?
Yes, absolutely. They're here to be of service.
Yes. Well, I feel that like I'm having like goosebumps all over my body, or I'll call them Andara bumps. Something's happening here. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for podcasting with me today. I would love to do this again sometime. I want to look into talking with you about putting together a little group and doing the class. But anybody listening to this could do the same, or they could also go through a link to the current class that you're offering May 21st.
Just hit the book now button. All the classes come up. Everything comes up.
They can see, right? And they can reach out to you. If what they're looking for isn't there, they should just reach out to you and ask.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well,
thank you, Marie.
Thank you so much.
You.
Yeah,
thank you for allowing me to express myself.
It's so beautiful. I'm still bathing in the energies. Like, you're a living Andara frequency. That's kind of right.
Yep. That's how I feel.
Right. And to our audience, don't you want to feel that? Right? Doesn't everybody want to feel that? And then be in service to source in full alignment. We're all doing this, all of us, every single one of us. The call has been put out. The invitation is there. And you just have to get still long enough to hear it and feel it. And then do things like go Andara shopping and really pay attention to colors in your life and the kind of the colored frequencies you're wearing. That can do a lot to like just reset your day. If you've had a tough moment or a tough interaction, go outside, tune into colors of nature, and tune into these
Right.
crystals. And you could even just look on our website. That's what I did. I just drank in the energies of Andaras through the screen, because they reach you. They reach you,
Yes.
right? So thank you, everybody. And hopefully we'll do this again soon. Blessings.
Aloha.